Turf Talk with Drew Miller.
On this week's episode of Tiger Turf Talk, we host Mr. Danny Losito, the manager of sports fields and conversions for the Carolina Panthers and Charlotte FC. This is an awesome episode about truly an incredible story about an individual who has seen it all. I mean, that's the best way of putting it. He has been on all sides of the country when it comes to managing fields, north to south, east to west, different types of Bermuda grasses, different types of Kentucky bluegrasses, understanding the significance of the work that is done at a professional level and to ensure player safety. And this is just an awesome podcast where we dive into everything that he's accomplished in his time, to the point where he has been newly named the manager of sports fields for the Carolina Panthers. And it's truly an incredible feat for such a young individual. And it's just awesome to hear how he got there and all his experience and how that went into truly being a incredible resume for someone who is overqualified for the position there in Charlotte. And it's just an awesome episode, and we can't thank Danny enough for taking the time. Truly inspiring to hear everything that he's accomplished, and you definitely want to check it out. So we hope you enjoy this episode of Tiger Turf Talk. Good evening and welcome to this episode of Tiger Turf Talk. I'm your host, Drew Miller. Today we have on an absolutely awesome guest. We have Danny Losito, the manager of sports fields and conversions for the Carolina Panthers and Charlotte FC. How are you doing this evening, sir?
Not too bad. Glad to be able to get on here.
Yeah, we've been all over the place with it, for sure. You were saying earlier that you were working on flooring and whatnot. Obviously, the off season. I'm sure it's actually not the off season because of FC. But what have you been up to? I mean, first being the boss. You know, it's crazy time for you moving up and taking that role. How's it been for you the past couple of weeks? Sort of finding your way and having a good time with it.
Yeah, it's been busy for sure. I think it's already been a month, and it feels like an hour. So no, we've been pretty busy from the get-go. The first week we had a Charlotte FC match, followed by back-to-back weeks of concerts. We had Billy Joel last week and Kenny Chesney this past Saturday. So pretty tied up. And then as we move into this weekend, we have Charlotte FC back here on Saturday. So flooring's getting finished up today. Tomorrow morning they'll finish that. So then it's just kind of field maintenance, getting it cleaned, vacuumed, run a magnet over, broom it, paint it, and then they're back here Thursday, Friday to train on it. So it's been a lot. You know, we're a little short staffed right now. We got some positions to fill. So just kind of taking on the extra work while trying to balance the office work has kind of been the biggest challenge for me. So hopefully that'll all settle down. We don't really have an off season anymore, so it's nonstop here. I think soccer goes from late February to October, November with playoffs, and then obviously football into January, February. So
it's crazy how you guys do it.
In venue now, which is what they wanted. So it's as long as we have the resources and the staff to do it, I think we'll be okay.
Absolutely. And hopefully you get those guys soon. Take a little load off of you. Like we said, you've been working hard and nonstop. I mean, with everything, you know, you've been there for a few years and you were there before the transition to artificial. What has your time been like there, sort of coming in as an assistant and seeing how the things are run and then making that transition to being a part soccer, I should say football so people don't get mad, but soccer, and then NFL, going into that, and now again sort of taking what you have learned and making it your own, sort of in your own way. And I know it's only been a month and it's a big question to ask for just 1 month, but what has it been like for you to take sort of your experience into this?
Yeah, it's tough because it has been a month and it's been nonstop a month. I think I've been at the office till 8 p.m. every day. So just trying to kind of balance it right now and let it settle in. hasn't probably fully hit me that it's, that weight's on me now. But I was fortunate to get to work with Tom, who's here. Tom Bond was here for, I think, 24 years as the head groundskeeper. So wealth of knowledge, really good guy. Was able to offer a lot of wisdom in that role for me. So got to kind of work with him in a year of grass and then a year with artificial. And his whole career, this place was grass. So for it to go to artificial in that last year was just a big change for everyone. And so we got through it. I think it was somewhere I always kind of wanted to be, get back closer to home. Never really thought it would happen. When that opportunity opened up, I was in LA during COVID and they had a position available. And, just because of the networking, I think back here, I was able to get in contact with him pretty soon and kind of navigate that situation and got the opportunity to come here. So, it's like any change. I think there's things that you want to change, that you want to do your own. I've, worked for a lot of really good people, a lot of smart people. Just kind of been able to absorb a lot, and now it's time to put that into play. And in a very different scenario, I never thought I would be managing an artificial stadium at that. So we still have our practice fields, which are natural grass, so it's good to kind of get my fix there, but it's just not the same. So it's a different art. You take out a little bit of the science away from it, but the art's there. It's very detailed. It's not any less maintenance as far as I can tell. I still feel like we're able to nitpick it to death. You can't kill it, so you can always do something and make improvements, adjustments, and that. So that's definitely different. There's still a learning curve there. Luckily, I feel pretty confident and comfortable in the artificial maintenance now, coming off of a football season of it last year. I think if it was just switched and I got thrown into this situation, with two teams right off the bat, then it'd be a little different story. But, I'm more comfortable having that first season under the belt before we get into this. So, and then just kind of taking on soccer and sharing the buildings with the teams. They're both here, so they both have locker rooms. They both have schedules that kind of conflict most days. They want to use the grass field. They want to use the stadium every day. So we're just kind of battling that. So, to get back to that question, it's tough to kind of implement what I've always wanted to do because we're really kind of learning, as we go here. It's a very new situation. So everyone's here, everyone here is learning and kind of trying to coexist peacefully and still produce something good. So we're getting
always evolving, right? Too many things going on and dealing with different groups. You're kind of the bridge between the football and the soccer and everything. So that I totally understand what you're saying. I love the part where you said you can't kill it. That's also really good to know,
yeah. If you mess it up, it's pretty expensive to fix. You can't just sod it. But no, I mean, it's true. You can always groom it and run a magnet and sweep it and brush it, top dress, and there's a lot you can still do to maintain like a playable surface that's consistent. And that's there's a negative connotation around it in our world and players at this level. Just trying to it is our job to manage it, right? It's our job to provide a good service regardless of what it is. So trying to manage those expectations, especially when you and you hear some of the negative things around it, it's tough. It puts you in a weird situation, and it's not all bad. I think there's pros and cons to everything. So, for example, this past 2 weeks, we did have 2 back-to-back concerts. We had our flooring down for 17 days straight. So, obviously, following that on natural grass, you have a big sod renovation, which I'd still rather do. But it gave us some time.
Everybody always wants it, right?
It gave us good time to really focus on the practice fields. We needed some love up there, focus on the landscape, and just kind of spread our attention, especially in a time when we're short-staffed. So, we wouldn't be able to do that if I was stressing out about the grass and the renovation and planning all that. So at times you have your pros. So
Absolutely. And I think, and I mean, I'm a huge advocate for grass, and I know you are. And it's something that is a necessary evil in a sense, and it's not evil. Don't get me wrong. That's probably the worst word for it. But like having the business side of what an NFL stadium is, there are so many opportunities for the owners to make money, and having that surface, like you said, helps in the sense of okay, it's up. We just need to do a few things to groom it, make sure it's safe and ready to go. Which again, having a professional like yourself, you're going to ensure that. It's not something that people should be like turned away from because again, there are people like you doing that. It's people like on our level at the high school level who really don't understand and don't have the means of doing that. That's where we sort of have that I think misunderstanding when it comes to artificial versus natural, because again, I think it was Nick Pappas I was talking to. They renovate their field every 2 years. Well, we're talking about high schools and colleges that are renting their fields for 10 years, stuff like that, where you can obviously maintain a safe playing surface with an artificial, but you have to understand the depth in which the care is, like you were saying, top dressing, all those things. So I think it is important for everyone to understand the significance of your guys' work as a field conversion manager for again NFL and MLS. And I personally have seen, I mean, the wear and tear of what multiple seasons on the same field for so many hours and time and whatnot happens, and it's hard to deal with. But I commend you for all the work that you guys do with that. You mentioned LA, and I believe it's the LA Coliseum you worked, correct? With that, could you sort of discuss some of the places you've worked and how you got to this point since college? What jobs have you worked? I believe both sides, baseball, football, sort of everything. Could you sort of discuss some of those experiences that you've had and where you've been?
yeah, I kind of a little bit of everything. Definitely did have my fair share of traveling. So, but that was kind of one of the things that when I was a student at NC State, we had a guy, Jimmy Simpson, past president of STMA. He was at the town of Cary. Came to talk to the class, and he always kind of talked about don't be afraid to move around and take opportunities if you can, obviously within reason of your situation, but just being able to relocate, especially early on in your career, to get different skills and work in different climates and just kind of broaden your horizon there. So I took that to heart. It was a good opportunity to travel and just and try new things. So when I was in school, I did an internship for him at the town of Cary USA Baseball Complex. After that, I went to John Turner at the Washington Nationals, did an internship with him. That was cool because I had just finished the summer doing Bermuda grass non-overseeded at USA Baseball, and then I was able to go up there and to DC and work on bluegrass. So when I came back for my last semester, I kind of had a little bit of experience in a cool season climate that a lot of kids, when you're going to school in the South, you really don't venture out too far sometimes. So that was important for me to get that different climate and get that experience there. So when I graduated that fall, he had linked me up with Luke Yoder at the Padres and kind of got to go out there and do a seasonal position. So I was there from February till I think late October, early November. And that was kind of the first intro into like a full season of Major League Baseball, right? The event load out there, obviously with San Diego and the weather, you have everything you can imagine, which was great because you're in it and you're doing the full season grind. As an intern, you're kind of babied a little bit. Yeah, you're grinding, but you're only working 3 months, right? And the baseball schedule is long, so that was an opportunity to go in. I think when I first got there in February, they had just finished removing the dirt from a monster trucks event, so we went straight into a full field renovation, minus the subgrade, and that was awesome to see. Right out of school, kind of getting your hands dirty in that, just kind of growing that field in through the season, and just kind of seeing it progress and all the way through the off season, right? So we finished up and went into like a Top Golf event or Callaway, whatever it was at the time, And so then at that time, I was kind of, it was a seasonal position. So if I was going to continue there, I'd do either a couple months of unemployment and try and figure it out in one of the most expensive cities in the country, or venture out and do some more things on my own. So I started looking for jobs. I applied around a while and ended up getting an assistant head groundskeeper position for the Reno Aces. And so I went out there, and that was my first full-time first aid job out of school. And that was something that was kind of cool for me, because I learned, the inner workings and more of like a personal relationship with the front office. Minor league baseball is much more personal. You're involved with a small group, small little family of people. So kind of just getting to see that, and how you interact with people in different departments, and that was kind of just eye-opening to that, because in the Major League Baseball level or Major League Sports, you're very separated if you're below that head position. So I never really saw that until that point. So that was big for me.
Were you there with Joe?
Yep, that was Joe's first year.
Oh, really? He had just come from New York. I was with him in New York. Great guy.
Yeah, Joe's the man. Yeah, he was kind of like my mentor there. So him and I, great friends, still keep in touch. And I think we all miss Joe in the sports turf industry.
I think he misses it too.
He's listening. We'll take you. And I'm actually hiring. So,
hey, Joe, you heard him.
Yeah.
Come on, Joe. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, you're good. And so I did that. And after that, about a year in, there was a job opening for the Columbia Fireflies head groundskeeper position. So obviously, Reno, I'm from Raleigh. So Reno is the other side of the world there. And it was fun. I mean, like I said, when I was in San Diego, that was Bermuda grass. It was overseeded situation at the time. Still, again, a very different climate. Southern California is not as easy to grow good Bermuda as you think. Just kind of mild temperatures, nothing too hot, nothing too cold. So you struggle there. But then going to Reno, you're high and dry. It's more of a high desert. And so it's kind of like Colorado in a sense. You got bluegrass there, pretty cold winters, crazy weather over the mountains there. So, that was a good experience. We had a lot of events there as well, just a couple of us working them. So we learned a lot there. So then at that point, I felt ready to kind of do it on my own. So I applied and was fortunate enough to get a head groundskeeper job closer to home. And that probably still to this day, with the exception of where I'm at now, is proven to be one of the most important jobs in my career, experiences in my career. I think to answer your first question, at that time, it allowed me to put together all the things that I had learned to that point and try to reproduce it on my own, right? To blend it into my own ideas and really just try it. And it was tough. It was challenging. It's the first time that I felt like the weight of, did I set the irrigation? Did I, am I fertilizing enough? Am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? Like, so, tarping situations, all that stuff. So you really feel it when you're an assistant. I don't think you really feel the weight, as much ownership as you like to think you have, and pride in your facility that you work at until it's yours. It kind of changes how you think, and it changes how often you think about it when you're at home, when you're on the road. So that was kind of a defining, spot for me, and just kind of how it changed how I thought about things. While that was happening, I was also getting a little burned out of the baseball schedule. So, we didn't have a lot of events there. It was just minor league baseball grind, short staffs. But we had a good ownership group there, good upper management that I felt like they respected my decision making, my opinions, my input. So they were good to me, and they allowed me to kind of to run with some things. So we had some good success there. And then in that time, I had kept in touch with some of the guys in Southern California, and the manager of UC Irvine at the time was taking the head groundskeeper job at the Coliseum, and he had reached out early into my second season, and he was like, "Hey man, we're gonna have an assistant job open in August if you want it." And I was like, "It's March. I got a season. Just let me know then." So I went through that whole season, kind of just kept in touch here and there, and just started to kind of ponder whether or not I wanted to work in baseball or try some grass sports, soccer, football, and try something different. At that point, I'd only done baseball, so this was an opportunity at a very high-profile, busy stadium. 2 teams, Rams were there, USC, it's a Coliseum, so everyone knows the history there. So it was unique, and while I wasn't really sold on LA as a city, I went for it. So it was fun. There's some cool stuff about that place. And, there's some stuff I didn't really care for, but nonetheless, I had a good time there. But I took the leap, and my parents were pissed because I had just got back to Columbia or closer to home, and so I took another trip across the country 2 years later. So there I was back on the West Coast, and the first season I was there, that was the year the Rams went to the Super Bowl and lost in Atlanta. But that was a crazy year. It was just 2-team football in an old native soil Coliseum field. It wasn't. We changed it over to a sand-based field in the first off season there after that season. So up until then, it was a native soil. It didn't drain well. 2 teams there, grass wall to wall, no warning track, no nothing. So that was challenging for sure.
The dream right there. Jeez.
Yeah.
You're at Brentsville High School right there.
Yeah, I don't think people realize that was one of the last, especially for an NFL team at that time, it was probably the last one playing on native soil. So that there was a lot of challenges that came with that. So, but then we were fortunate enough to get a renovation, so we did that full redesign right after that season there, and that off season we did all the way down to the 7th grade and back up. So it was really cool to kind of be a part of, and then go into that second season with them actually kind of having a little bit better system there. And then during that time, still at that point in my life, and at that time, I never thought that the Panthers job was going to come open. There's some long-time guys here that were kind of in line, and it's pretty rare to get an opportunity to go home and work at the level you want to work at. So that wasn't really on my mind. My focus was kind of just building my resume, getting a skill set, or an event load skill set, a conversion skill set, different climates, different cultural practices, just kind of becoming more well-rounded as a groundskeeper and as a person, so that whenever a job did come open, then I was qualified to apply for it and put myself in a position to do so. So when the Panthers job opened up, I actually happened to be in town, and just kind of reached out to Tom, came down, had lunch with him, got to talk to him a little bit. Things kind of moved forward from there, and so it was a little tough at that point to leave LA, but I was pretty much ready to go. I love the people out there. It was probably one of the best ground crews I've probably ever worked with and may ever work with. It's just a solid group of guys out there. Hats off to them. And that was tough to leave them. But this was just an opportunity to again come home, work for the home team, be close to family again, and just kind of really build something for the long term here. So, and then obviously coming in with Tom here, we didn't know how long he was going to be here. And I was just kind of looking forward to working for him as long as I needed to. And, hopefully they thought highly enough of me at that time to get an opportunity at this. So I feel pretty fortunate to be able to make that come true. So here I am. Long story.
No, can I just say one hell of a journey? I mean, And the crazy part is there's a lot of people that don't understand the different stops that you made, some of the like the hardships you went through. I mean, Reno, you guys had the soccer conversions on like a weekly basis, and nobody really gets that experience
I
anywhere.
will say I only did 2 of those. I got there the year before the soccer team game.
Good
So
for you, man. Good for
that's
you.
Leah and Joe's mess.
Yeah, they got to deal with that, but still, I mean,
Yeah.
even 2 times, you go through it once, you kind of had that experience.
Yeah.
And then the conversions of, I mean, USC to Rams day after, having that time there, that was probably extremely tiring. But
Yeah.
all the different things that really, again, like you said, hope your resume is good enough, really shows that you are more than qualified to do what you're doing now, and I think that's incredible to hear. Um, Now I'm always curious to see what your answer is, people's answer for this, because there are so many different stories out there that brought people to turf, and it's always intriguing to find out what was it for you that brought you to the turf industry. And again, seeing all the different opportunities that you've had and you've taken on, what was it that said, "Hey, you know what? I want to be a turf grass manager, and that's the career I want to follow."
Oh boy. I don't know. It's funny because when I was a kid, I used to my older brother mowed the lawn when we were younger, and then as soon as I was old enough, I did it for the rest of the time. So, and I used to hate it, but I do remember the the result when you're done, when when you look back and it's all cut and it's even. At that time when you're a kid, like I didn't know why it looked good or whatever, but it was just even and it was symmetrical and it kind of looked clean. And I think that's the perfectionism and the detail work and the fruits of your labor kind of stuff that ended up transitioning later. And I was always big into art, like being outside, kind of doing that stuff. So initially, when I was in high school, I was kind of looking at architecture, landscape architecture, horticulture, those kind of career paths. And so at the time, I went to Wake Tech Community College up there, just kind of did some general ed, trying to figure out exactly where I wanted to go. And that's when I kind of really started diving into that realm. So never actually wanted to go to school in town. I always kind of wanted to get out of town. And then once I started looking at programs for landscape architecture and that kind of stuff, I fell into NC State and started browsing through those programs and actually stumbled upon just turfgrass science, clicked on it, started reading about it. And just at the time, they were top 3 school for that program. So it was I don't really know. I really don't have an answer of how I really fell into it. I didn't grow up playing golf. I wasn't one of those kids who just was on the golf course and doing that. I just, I was more interested in the maybe the outdoor side of it, and just kind of working with my hands. So, and then just the artistic side. So I started looking up that kind of stuff. Applied for it, got in, went to state right away into that program and just kind of dove in. So met some guys at the Durham Bowl, did some internship opportunity, volunteer stuff there. Did some flooring, which paid off, I guess.
So it's happening now. So I guess it was worth it, right?
Beer fest every fall for the Durham Bulls when I was in school. So yeah, I mean, and from that point, as soon as I kind of like got into it and really started to learn about it, I just thought it was awesome. Just kind of fell in love with it. So,
Absolutely. That's so it's crazy because there are a few people that again it's just like, well, I kind of found it on a catalog, So
I could probably fall into that category. Just
no, exactly. But I mean, like, and that's awesome. It brought you to this point, in North Carolina. So that's incredible. Now you mentioned a couple people again. The people out in LA are the greatest. You talked about Leah for a second there. Like, could you sort of discuss, and you probably have the biggest one humanly possible, about your network, and how you sort of developed, you've been across the country on multiple occasions and different people and reaching out to different people while you're in certain spaces, what has it been like for you sort of developing that network, and what does that mean to you now in your role with the Panthers?
Man, it's important. It really is. I think, I give that advice to anyone younger. I mean, I'm obviously young, but like the guys in school still. It's funny because when you're growing up, like my dad used to say, like networking is so important. And, you don't want to hear it or whatever. And like whatever. But then I started hearing it more and more. And then when you get to college, you start hearing this theme of how important networking is and who not what right? So like I had heard that a lot, and again, I go back to the couple days that Jimmy was back in class, and for whatever reason, just kind of like his passion, um, and just really just passion for our industry when he was talking to us, it just clicked, and I was just really diving into what he was saying and just listening, and that was one of the things he talked about. Was just networking is so important in our industry because it's so small, and you don't realize that when you're in school and a student, and then as you go through the career, you start to realize, like, I worked with Joe Hill, who happened to work with Drew Miller, who happened to work with Leah, like all these people are all connected, right? So I think within like 2 phone calls, you could probably get a hold of anyone in this industry who's worked with someone you're trying to find out about. And I think I kind of just naturally, like to introduce people to each other, kind of be that source of information sometimes, and I think it's really helpful. And I wasn't always that way. I think I was a lot more shy in the beginning, and it just kind of naturally developed. And then, obviously, by nature of just moving so much and different, not just moving in general, but to different sides of the country. The turf industry is funny because you have these little cliques all over, right? You have the South, you have the Northeast guys, you got the Pacific Northwest guys, the Southern, the Midwesterners. So like, just like the country's divided, right? You have that little niche in each section of the country. So it's kind of funny, but the only one I probably didn't get to really, I guess it's the middle of the country and up in the Northeast. So, but you always get to work with someone who has been, right? So, especially internships, right? You get how many students are going to the Red Sox, and how many students are going to the Mets and the Nationals, and a lot of major league teams get a lot of interns. And so at that time, I right off the bat when I went to the Washington Nationals, we had 6 interns from 6 different schools across the country. So, and we're all living together. So at that point, you pretty much make kind of a friend or acquaintance for life. And we all went on to do our different things. And funny enough, I was interning with the kid who went to Texas A&M when we were at the Nationals. Fast forward all the way to the point where I moved to LA. I actually moved in with him out there, and we were roommates again, 4 or 5 years later. He was working with the Dodgers and at LMU, and I was at the Coliseum. So, and then it's just, it's important. And, I like networking. Not everyone likes doing that. So, obviously that kind of just plays into it a little bit. I think it's important, and it's one of those things where, for the most part, everyone in our industry is very open and willing to talk about what you do, because everyone's kind of looking for, ideas and new creative design and everything. So, some people choose different avenues to do it, whether it be Twitter or just, in person or podcast or anything like that. Right. So, there's different ways to do it, but I enjoy it. I think it's important. Not everyone's that way. So that's, to each their own. That's fine. But it's important to me, and it doesn't have to be for everyone. So.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Especially like just the overall concept that you explained was perfect. So, obviously it's a month and we've been talking about how it really hasn't hit you yet. Is there anything you're really looking forward to I mean, it's such a great opportunity to, again, see sort of everything sort of come to light with Charlotte FC. And, I know this because my former boss works for Chad Price at Carolina Green. You guys are getting a huge renovation with the practice facility, which is going to be just ridiculous and amazing, all at the same time. And just sort of that whole concept. What is it that you're looking forward to the most with everything you got going on down there?
So that one actually is on pause. So it's a little bit of political hiccups there. But I
Still in the
think
works. We'll say in the works.
yeah, yeah. Eventually, something will happen there, and they will, open up a new headquarters or practice facility. So I think honestly, just the opportunity to build something like that is probably pretty high up there, and potentially even hopefully a new stadium one day. This one was designed in the '80s, built in the early '90s, and it's not that old from from an age standpoint, but from an infrastructure and technology standpoint, when we're talking about event load, it doesn't hold up for that all the time. It just may not be as efficient as it could be. So, I think there's been talks about that kind of stuff, and that pretty much is probably my answer. And what I'm more excited about in the future is just being able to kind of build something here, build a program, a department that is successful, and that when that time comes, we're set up in a good spot to really have our opinions respected and input to build something correctly. I think that's important to have your insight at the early stages of design. Not a lot of people or not a lot of groundskeepers get that opportunity. So I look forward to hopefully getting that opportunity to just be able to avoid some of the mishaps, and just by getting ahead of it, and then just using really the latest technology and getting an opportunity to do that, put in all the bells and whistles, and really just be able to produce something cool. So I think either one, the practice facility one day is going to be awesome. If they ever decide to build a new stadium, that's going to be even cooler. So I think that would be, once in a lifetime, obviously, opportunity to see. It doesn't happen often. These things last for a pretty long time, and you can go your whole career without ever working in a new building. So if it happens, that'd be awesome. But if it doesn't, we'll succeed here, and we'll continue to make this place better.
You're young. I think you got an opportunity,
We'll see.
You just mentioned technology, and I was sort of curious because earlier you were mentioning when you were in Colombia, you're like, oh, did I set this? Oh, did I do that? Have you been able to, even again, in your time as an assistant into this point, have you been able to sort of bring in any new technology for your practice fields or for the game field before, or even now with the artificial, that you're excited about? Or is there anything specific that you want to talk about that you want to add, that would be beneficial to you?
No, I mean, one of the cooler things that, we didn't have, with the natural grass, it probably wouldn't be as efficient, but it is efficient for us with the turf, is just the big water cannons we use for irrigation. Just being able to water the entire football and soccer field out here, the stadium field with 6 irrigation heads is pretty cool. It's not always efficient in the wind. Your arc and your spray is so high that the wind drift is pretty bad. So in a windy situation, they can get a little misty, but when we need them, we use them to settle down our infill. We use them to wet the surface for soccer, and they work pretty good. I think we were hoping to be able to use them for soccer, obviously, just so we wouldn't be out there hand watering pre-match and at halftime. So far so good. We've had some situations where we couldn't get it done just because of high winds, but that one's pretty cool. I think with the practice facility on pause, hopefully we're going to continue the conversation of renovating our practice fields here, and then hopefully in that situation we can kind of do a mini version of that, and just, we don't have a lot of real estate to work with there. It's pretty small square footage there, so just kind of trying to redesign that property, maybe. Just kind of something I'm hopeful for. I don't know if it'll happen, but if that gets to happen, I think we'll have an opportunity to kind of introduce some new technology. But other than that, for me, it's just really been a difference in cultural practices, just kind of some of the practices that I want to try and do. And so this year we'll kind of maybe move towards that. We're talking to coaches right now and equipment staff about moving away from overseeding on the practice fields, just going to a non-overseeded situation, use of growth blankets, something like that, just to kind of mitigate some of the footing issues we have. Just older fields, it'll take well, adding that additional to the ryegrass in the fall kind of gives us a little bit of trouble in the fall with those guys. So we don't want them slipping and getting aggravated with the practice fields. It's not really necessary. So the biggest thing for that for me is just getting everyone to be okay with it being dormant, and know that it's not about the color at that point. It's about the footing, and it's a practice field. So now, while it's a personal attack, if it doesn't look good for me, it's not the.
It's not dead, we swear.
Yeah. So I understand that is it's just education, though. It's something you just have to talk to them about and just explain the situation. And for the most part, they're pretty understanding. So
absolutely, and that's something we aim for here with our program for sure. We sort of wrap up on these last two questions, and I'm always curious again, sort of see the wide array of answers that we get. You're obviously young, and you obviously have been everywhere. I mean, that's probably the best way to say it. With that being said, this isn't like to make anything easier for you or any way, shape, or form. If there was something that you wish you knew going into everything you've done, what would that one thing be and why?
oh boy.
Sorry.
Man, that's a tough one. It's funny because I guess it's hard for me to say like patience, because I eventually, I'm in a position that I've always wanted to be in. It probably happened at a little bit more elevated pace than I anticipated. But just kind of there, Peter Hayes, he's the director of field operations for the Padres. He's kind of one of my mentors along the way, and he used to always say, like, Dan, calm down. You got 40 years to work, 30 years to work, 20 years left to work. So, just the be patient. When I was fresh out of school, I was very adamant about getting to the highest level, and I always and the reason I wanted to do that was just because I felt like you had the most opportunity, the most resources, and the biggest crew to be able to really produce something perfect. And that's what I liked about that level. And it comes with sacrifices. It comes with a lot of hardships along the way, and it's not easy at all. But it does give you an opportunity to, have all the, like you said, the technology, the tools, the staff, the stuff to really like give you the best opportunity to produce something great. So that's what was attractive to me. But I wanted to do it so fast, and I don't think that's necessarily. Along the way, I kind of learned that you can be happy at any level and take pride in what you do at any level. It doesn't have to be major league sports. I think that's important for young students to learn. As I say that, I'm trying to hire all of them. So please come. But like there was a beauty in minor league baseball and single A ball, with the freedom to do what I wanted to do without the pressure. There's a lot of pressure when you're at this level to produce, and obviously, with artificial, it's a little less, but when it's grass, and you're on TV and you got, how many $1 million worth of players out there, in the footing, and that is the game, it can get pretty stressful. So, a lot of guys wear that for a long time, and, so, excuse me. I think just kind of the patience aspect of it, just to know that you can be patient. You have a long career ahead of you if you're willing to work hard and stay in it. This industry obviously burns a lot of people out. It's a lot of work, but if you put in that time, you can make something pretty cool and have a good career and be successful too. So, yeah,
Love it.
just take a breath.
No, I hear you. A lot of people, we were talking about a lot of people in this industry with burnout and all the craziness that comes with the job, and understanding that, hey, it's okay to be stressed out. It's okay to have those moments, but if you're not willing to take the time to focus on yourself for a bit, it's going to get a little overbearing and it's going to get worse for you. So I couldn't agree with you more on that for sure.
Yeah, it's tough because by the nature of what we do, it's hard work, and it's hands-on labor, and it's, it does require more time than a normal job, and I think you have to understand that going into it and accept that, or else you're not going to be happy if you're looking for a 9 to 5, 40-hour a week job.
This is not it.
Some places it is, and that's fine, and you can find those situations, but at certain levels, you have to understand and accept that it does require a little bit more work, and it comes with some different benefits than other places do, and you got to weigh that and find what's right for you and your families and stuff. But burnout's real. It's a real thing. But just getting to a situation where you can hopefully be at a place or an organization or a company that you can build the staff correctly and educate and use your resources to do that. That's what's really important. Then obviously accepting that there is going to be times that you just have to work a little harder. But that's what we do.
100%. Couldn't agree with you more on that. The last question we always ask, again, we have a high school turf program. We have kids who are graduating in less than a month now. Looking to enter the field, looking to enter turf management. What would you say is your best words of advice for those kids that are looking to start their careers or to go to a college program and really pursue this moving forward in their lives?
Pass on just a little advice I was given a lot early on. I think it's important to not chase after the money. If anyone ever told you you're going to be a doctor's salary being a groundskeeper, maybe they lied to you, but that's not what's important in the beginning when you're trying to build your resume. If you want to have a long career or a successful career in what we do, and whatever metrics you define that as, but it's important to just kind of build your resume, build your skill set along the way, and try new things and learn from different people. I think there's a huge benefit in working for multiple people along the way and just kind of learning different methods and practices, and then being able to put that into your own one day. It's obviously more, what I did, and I think it paid off really well. But just being able to kind of to work in an industry not a lot of people get to work in. It's a tight knit fraternity type industry. Everyone's willing to take care of each other for the most part, and I think it's a pretty cool thing. And but just again, Peter from San Diego used to say, "Don't chase the dollar, chase the opportunity." So like I said, 40 years to work. Okay, by the time you get out of college, you're going to be in it for a long time, and that's there's a lot of truth in that. Be patient and build something cool. So just early on. Find a school that has a good program, that has opportunities to learn, and really dive into the science and the why, and use that as a tool for yourself. We had a professor at NC State used to say, like, your degree is just one tool in your toolbox. And there's a lot of truth to that, like the scientific aspect of what we do, and the plant science, soil science, the chemistry. That stuff is important for later on when you're making the whys and the hows to do things. Just an educated decision. So it starts there, and then just kind of using those internships and networking abilities to just diversify yourself before you go into the workforce is important.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for everything. Congratulations on the job. I know it's been a month, like we've said it 40 times already, but that's awesome. Especially at your age, it's just incredible to see, again, someone being successful in this industry and moving forward, Also, happy belated birthday. I saw that the other day. I was like, I can't believe you're going to do this on your birthday. Thank you. Oh, geez. You got to take some time for your birthday, man.
No, I know. We had Kenny Chesney on my birthday.
Did he say happy birthday at least?
No,
he's a good guy.
He sung happy birthday to his bass player, so that was good enough.
That counts for you too,
I heard it. It's all good.
Yeah, it's all that matters, right?